Welcome to another episode of Break Speed.
Today we're going to make more holes in the S13. So today we're going to be fixing some of the rust on the S13.
Yep, so we're going to be doing the door hinges.
So like this one looks pretty fine, and the other side both look fine. This one, like, you can see a bit of a hint, but it's the kind of thing you wouldn't really think to look at.
Yeah, it's only because you saw a thread, didn't you, on, was it Nico Clerc?
I think it was on Nico, yeah. M Tranche, I think the guy is, if you're out there. Hey dude, the thread's awesome. But he cut these out, and the amount of rust that's hidden in there is
Quite surprising.
yeah, a little bit scary. What we think the problem is like this is double skin, and this one's actually triple skin, and they dip the chassis, so like you can just sort of see the factory e-coating, I think it's called. That actually does a really good job of preventing rust. But the theory is that in there it's been too close and the e-coat didn't really penetrate. And then also where they're sat close together, you get like capillary action just drawing in moisture, which makes it rust really fast.
Yeah.
And that can basically happen anywhere there's like a tight seam.
Yeah.
Which, considering the entire car is like stamped steel panels that are then butted up against each other and spot welded, means there's plenty of opportunity for rust to start. And that's why normally cars rust inside out and it starts inside seams, and there's definitely, you'll see plenty of evidence of that as we go around.
So we're going to start off by grinding this off and then drilling out the spot welds.
So we've got a crazy little spot weld drill bit. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's got like a really flat top. So it goes through like just the top layer, and you can cut all the way through this layer before it really starts cutting through the layer behind. And then you can just pop it apart without drilling through everything and then having to like make up the holes again.
Yeah.
You can just spot weld it back on, plug weld it back on. Get this out of the way. We would also better clean up, so there's still some wiring and like some ECU boxes and stuff behind the pillar, and like our trims and things. We don't want to get grinding sparks or weld on.
Yeah.
Should probably mask up the window as well.
Yeah, that'll be ruined.
Yeah, so we'll get prepped and then show you getting this off, and we'll have a look at
What's going on under there.
I mean, this is going to be just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. Which you can see.
Yeah. Cool. Let's get it.
Yeah.
Strip it.
Because you have bad penetration. So we got this piece off. It was harder than we thought it was going to be. But as you can see, it's quite crusty under here. So we will need to take this off layer by layer and see what we're dealing with under there. But we are going to start down here, cut this off, see what it looks like, and because this is an easier shape, and then we can work our way up to that.
So that's exactly what we're looking for, what we expected to find. Not that we want it.
No, it doesn't look as bad as...
No, that was pretty knackered. But yeah, you can see, so this is what we're talking about. This sort of greyish colour stuff is the original, yeah, I think it's called E-coat or something like that. Anyway, fine.
Not fine.
In between where it's been close up, yeah, not fine. So we'll clean this up and then we'll make our repair piece fit the gap, and then we'll coat the back of the repair piece and the car with primer and buzz it back together. Easy, right?
Yeah.
This bit should be. It's nice and flat. That one's a bit more complex because it starts here and goes all the way around, and I reckon it'll be rusty down here as well.
Do you reckon?
Yeah. The other side was, and the blokey's on the internet was. So we've cleaned the rust out. Now we're going to use some fancy templating material. Definitely not a monster box that we stole from the car.
Nope. You actually cut it out just so it says the name as well.
We're not sponsored. Basically, yeah, just stick it in, and we're going to mark it up, trim it till it fits. It's a lot easier to work with this than to start cutting the metal down. So make your shape, make it a really nice tight fit, and then we'll transfer it onto the metal and
Wang it in.
yeah, cut our actual patch. So there we go, got a nice tight fit, and now we can transfer that to our metal. The other thing we're going to do is mark out the holes.
Yeah.
A couple of ways to do this. If you can get to the back, which I think we can, and it can probably just hit it with a Sharpie. It's the top one, I can feel it.
Can you feel it going in?
I did on the top one, me on the bottom.
I've got 3. Oh, there was a middle one that I used as a hole.
Sorry, I'll ignore that.
Can you feel me in the bottom?
Yep.
Yeah?
I can feel you in my bottom. Yep.
And you can feel me at the top?
Yep.
Okay, go back to the bottom.
Oh, don't go back to the top now.
I've gone in the top.
Oh, no.
Top.
No,
Bottom.
top then bottom.
Top.
Okay.
Then finishing the top.
Dirty board. If that's not an option, obviously with a card, you can just like,
Make up.
yeah,
Yeah.
work out roughly where it is, poke around with a screwdriver or something till you find it, poke it through from this side, or stick a scribe through, or put some toothpaste or grease or something in there. Loads of options, just find your hole.
It's not
Discover
hard.
it.
It's not hard.
Explore your hole.
That's
You probably shouldn't use black on the black side, but we can see where it is. Cool, let's transfer this onto our metal and yeah, where we go. So it actually fits in quite nicely as it is. It fits in all our sides okay. So we'll drill our holes and get it prepped for paint, and then we'll be ready to tack it in once the paint's dried. So we've got our bottom patch ready to go, all primered up. This is Electrox High Zinc Primer. It's supposed to be non-porous, so we could just leave that as a top coat now and sand them together. I might stick it with a bit of top coat just to make absolutely sure it's going to be okay. Don't use normal primer and sandwich it away, because normal primer is porous and that's just going to suck in water and do exactly what we don't want. That one's ready to go. We're going to now start cutting away at the layers up here. This piece is made up of so there's this top panel. You can see it comes down to like here. And then this panel overlaps all the way up to, you see the edge of it like there. So we're going to drill out the spot welds again, start peeling it out, and then sort of pick a cut line from that, depending on how far up the rust is. And then we'll just cut across the top skin, trying to preserve this bracket if we can, but I think we're going to have to cut above in the end. So we'll take some measurements, make sure we can get it back on in the same place. And then we're going to have to cut around the front as well. It's probably going to be a Dremel job. We'll pretend for now that this layer underneath it could be sound. It looks very much like it's not. So we'll cut through the single skin, peel it off, see what we got, cut through the next layer. And then behind that is another one of these brackets that actually holds the door on, which also makes this a bit easier because we don't have to worry so much about references for where the door hangs. As long as we don't disturb this piece, we're okay. Okay, so now we can see why this is a good idea. Hopefully the Dremel can get in that corner because the cutting disc is too big and we don't want to cut all the way through the A-pillar. So yeah, I think it's going to be Dremel time, bit of precision. So that is my middle name. So there we go. That is disgusting. Oh, look at it, that's pretty bad. Doesn't look great, but all this is going to come out. Doesn't look like it travels too much further up here. So we're just going to peel that out, have a look. Same idea, we'll shine light in here. Just make sure the back of the section is fine, and then hopefully we won't have to cut out this, because that's going to be quite a difficult shape for us to make. Okay, so we've taken a bunch out here, and it doesn't look great. We'll cut this section out, and then hopefully find some good metal underneath. Okay, it was a bit more trouble than I expected, but hopefully now. So, the back of it's all right, really. Probably could have just cleaned up the face, but we're going to try and simplify this a little bit. So we'll clean this up, because that's our reference point. And then all this was 2 skins overlaid with maybe 9 spot welds, holding them together. So we're going to use a marginally thicker gauge sheet to replace this and just join the top and the bottom layer. Because what it did here was like bent in to allow this top layer of the same thickness to lie over it and make like one solid bit. So instead of doing that, we're just going to make that one piece. That makes sense? Yeah, it should be just as strong because it'll be continuously joined. There'll be a slight difference in the thickness, but I think the fact that it's all welded will make up for that. And the fact it's not rusty will certainly help. And then there's this only just 2 layers rather than all 3 sandwiched together. So we'll get this cleaned up and then start making our card templates to rearrange this, bend some stuff back. Oh, there goes tetanus. Alright, so we've cleaned up the face of this as much as we can. But around here I couldn't get the wire wheel all the way in, so there's still some rust. Obviously you don't want to leave any rust. So we're going to use some deox gel. It's basically just like a citric acid suspension. This one is very old. Basically, stick it on, citric acid eats away at the rust, and then after 30 to 60 minutes apparently, but I find it depends on temperature. It's quite warm today, so hopefully it'll work quick, but after a while anyway, it will have dissolved the rust. So really good for hard to reach areas like this, or when you want to get out like deep pitting. A couple of goes of this should sort it out. So let's get some on. It needs to be fairly thick. So don't like smear it on light, it's got to be pretty thick. All right, so we've got our gel applied, and then we're going to cling film it. That's for a couple of reasons. Number 1, because it's on quite thick and it's on a vertical surface, we don't want it falling off. And number 2, this can't dry out, otherwise it stops working and it's a bit of a pain to get off. So this keeps it moist as well. And that's it, we'll leave that to work. Fairly quickly, like after 10 minutes or so, you should see it bubbling. That means it's starting to work. And then it goes a really sort of nasty yellowy or sometimes blacky colour once it's spent and it's dissolved the rust. So that's what we're going to look out for. I find quite often, especially in this country when it's quite cold, really need to leave it overnight at least to really take off the rust, especially the deeper stuff. So we'll leave that to work. We've top coated the bottom one. Probably can't quite see. Just messy job, literally just something to make sure it's definitely waterproof. Done the plate as well. As soon as that's touch dry, then we'll prep that and get it welded in. So just looking at this piece that we took out from here, and it's rusty. So that cut line is here, and then it's rusty higher up, which probably means the back of this is rusty. So I'll drop the section a little bit higher, and then we can start making up our card template. I'm pretty confident that I won't be able to make a single plate that has this profile and then bends up and has this bend as well. So I think what we're going to do is split it on this corner. So we'll make a plate to go in here, and then we'll make another plate to go there and just lip round. So we've cut out that extra section. Looks like it was probably a good idea as well. You can see that, but it is pretty rank. So I've got our trusty card. We're just going to make a template, so we'll just keep trying and cutting until we get this to fit nicely inside that gap. That should be close enough to get us started. I've just left some excess on this side to allow for this bend here. Okay, now we just try and rough out where the bend is going to be, so we can transfer that onto the metal as well. We don't have anything fancy, so we're going to make do with a bit of hammer time. So just smooth out a little bit, but we're starting to get the shape in here. Let's just try on the car. Alright, so just both follow on the lines, and when I fitted it up, I saw I need to move the bend across a little bit. So I just clamped it in the vise and slightly further up and hammered it around. You can see we've got the profile pretty much where you want it. We've left it a little bit oversized, probably just because I'm not very experienced in metalwork, but I find it quite difficult to work out when you start putting this bend in, what it's going to do to like the overall size of the piece, you know, how much it's going to shrink and whatever else. So leave it oversized. And now look, that lines up okay. We're tucked up there because the angle of the piece changed. When we put the bend in, it now has to sit clocked. But we've got enough excess that with that pushed firmly in, if we now draw a line where it needs to be. So this top edge is getting pretty close now. And what I really care about at the minute is making sure this bit is lined up. Because once this is tacked on, I've got enough excess, I can form this in place if I need to. But I need to make sure that this bend is in the right place. So now we need to trim the bottom until we fit flush. And then we'll be ready to start tacking it in, and we'll work it around as we go. So in preparation for that, we will zinc primer the back of this, because obviously access will be difficult once it's on. And we'll also scuff this up and zinc primer that. We've not disturbed much of the e-coat, but just like where we've gone for the spot welds and that, we just want to give that another layer of protection. So our deox gel's been on for a little while. You can see like it's this kind of yellowy colour now, which means it's done its job. Pretty rank. Give it a good rinse off. So the gel actually did a really good job of softening up the like the hard black carbon deposits. So now it is pretty much okay. We'll get the bottom repair piece welded in then. To get a good weld, we're going to have to clean up just around the edges of this and this, because you can't weld through paint. You can get weld through primer, which I was considering for this, but I think it's still like drags impurities and stuff into the weld that I didn't really want, and it's going to melt away from the weld site anyway. You know, it's weld through, it's not magic. So I prefer to just coat it with a decent zinc primer to give it some extra protection, and occasionally some top coat for that extra layer, and then we'll just sand it off the edges to be welded. So we've got our plate mounted up. We're just going to clean around the edges on the car to make sure we got nice fresh metal. And you can see I've left the back plate where the spot welds are going to be painted, because until it's bolted up, I couldn't be 100% exactly where they're going to be. I don't want to take off any paint that I don't have to. So we've left it on, and then we're going to poke this like wire brush drill attachment. And I found if you really jam that in there, it'll clean up the paint just on the area you need to be clear for your welding. Seems to work well so far, and it means that, yeah, you only cleared the bit you need to, and the rest hopefully stays protected. We've cleaned up around here as well, so we will tack it in to keep the alignment, spot weld it in to actually, yeah, make sure it's in its final position, and then finish up the welding. So that's pretty well held in place now. Now all we've got to do is continuously weld the rest of the patch in. Because it's so thin, we can't just run a single bead, because if we try and do that, there'll be too much heat in the part and we're going to blow through. So we're just going to basically layer up tacks. Normally I find you can get away with about 3. So I'll do like 3 tacks in one place, and then I'll give that bit a break and come down, say here, and do 1, 2, 3, and then like maybe up there, 1, 2, 3, you know, and move around until all the gaps are filled. And there we go, fully welded in. Looks all right to me, I think. The welds aren't sat up too proud, so we'll dress this back with a flat wheel, get it all nice and flat again. As I say, I'm not a welder. By all means, if someone out there knows, if this could be done better, or if I could be changing my settings, or if I could be changing my technique, or doing something to make this work better so I have to stress it down less, or if I'm doing something really stupid, let us know in the comments. It's the only way we're going to learn. And then, we can feed that back to you guys as well, and we'll learn together, which is the name of the game, isn't it? Yeah, that's all welded in. I'll leave that to cool down. Paint's dry on our first section and the back of the repair piece. So exactly the same as before. Tack it in, form it up, smash them welding. Following the same method as before, we've got our card template, so we've marked it up so we know it's in position, poked through where the bolt holes need to be drilled, and picked some good locations for our spot welds too. So I'll transfer this onto the metal. I bent up the patch and drilled the holes as well, just to help keep it in place. You might be able to see this one I actually missed, so I have to weld that back up. Top one was fine. It's a close enough fit all the way around now that we can weld it in. This one was a bit more challenging, so I'll drill the holes ready for the spot welds, and then it's ready to weld in. Pieces bolted up in position. We're going to make sure we push it into its final place before we actually weld. We'll do exactly the same as we've done before. A couple of tacks, smash some plug welds in there. Then it's just a case of filling the gaps, and we're done. Except for the little bracket, but we might leave that for today. I might pop that on when I've got a wing handy just to make sure it's in exactly the right position. So yeah, tack, plug, seam, success. So there we go. Don't know if you can see this bit down here. Cautionary tale, don't go too nuts with the grinder. I wasn't careful enough for the flap disc. I was taking away some of the metal on the car, not just the weld. So I made this section really thin, so I had to re-weld another plate back in there. And I went through on the corner in the same way. So I left it slightly more proud this time, but skimmer filler will take care of that without risking doing this and making the metal too thin. So yeah, stick some top coat on it just to keep it protected, and that's that. All finished, apart from the bracket. As I say, we'll put on later when I've got a wing handy. Does it look as good as it did in my mind before I started? No, not really. You can still see bits of where the weld is. It's all right, John. I'm pretty happy with it. It's quite a difficult shape to make, and it is in there. I'm confident that it's perfectly strong enough, and that with a skimmer filler, it's going to disappear. The wing comes up to like this corner anyway, so you won't even see it really. And this section you only see with the doors open. There's a rubber trim that sits over this lip, so that'll cover the inside of there as well. It's going to be fine. I'm not a pro. So yeah, we'll run with that. Jobbed. On to the next rust hole. On that note though, obviously for you guys, this build has only just really started. As you can see, it's been going on a little bit longer for us, but we have been distracted. We got the opportunity to pick up another vehicle for, let's say, a very good price. And it's essentially a barn find by this point. You'll see next episode. So just to warn you, we're going to switch to that probably for about a month's worth of weekly releases, I reckon. And that's going to be more of a sort of workshop hang. So a bit more raw. I know, because the production quality here is like through the roof, right? But a bit more raw than this. Slightly longer episodes just with me and Luke looking at how we sort this car out, kind of thing. And I think that's probably going to be the way this channel works. We'll come back to the S13 because there's so much to do on this. I think it's going to sort of weave in and out as big parts come up. And then in between, so we've got this other car we're going to introduce you to next episode, and we own other vehicles, and there's other vehicles we want to own. So we're going to try and do smaller jobs in between as well, and show you guys some different bits and bobs around the mammoth task that is this. So yeah, anyway, as I say, next few episodes will be on the other car. As always, thank you for watching, and yeah, see you next time.